The views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of this station, JVC Broadcasting Management, or its sponsors.
With so many people living longer, the fear of outliving your money becomes a reality for many of us. Will I be a financial burden? Will I outlive my money? How will I be remembered? My name is Neil Himmelstein, president of Main Street Planning Group. Please contact me by visiting mainstreetplanninggroup.com. That's mainstreetplanninggroup.com, or call 631-647-4694. I will introduce you to strategies that will guarantee you will not outlive your money, that can guarantee you will not be a burden on your loved ones. Through a collaborative approach, we will uncover solutions that offer tax-efficient strategies, lifetime income, and legacy planning, choice, organization, direction, and education. That is the code we stand behind. Contact mainstreetplanninggroup.com. That's mainstreetplanninggroup.com, or call 631-647-4694. And listen to me every Friday at 3 p.m. as I host the Main Street Code for Financial Success, right here on 103.9 LI News Radio. Welcome to the Main Street Code for Financial Success. I'm your host, Neil Himmelstein. I can be reached at 631-647-4694, or you can visit me on my website at mainstreetplanninggroup.com. You know, when we talk about our code, we talk about choice, organization, direction, and education. And we work with hundreds of advisors all across the country on their questions regarding life insurance, disability, long-term care, and annuities. We are your insurance expert, and we are a companion to your estate attorneys and planning attorneys and accountants, as well as financial advisors, in providing wholesale life insurance, annuity advice, whether it be underwriting or what type of product and how to position the product and all those kind of things. One of the things we like to talk about, and I'd like to spend a few minutes today, is a guaranteed income for life. And what a lot of people don't think about until they retire or right before they retire, it's not about really how much assets you have. It's about what is my budget, what is the income I have coming in. And when we talk about income, you know we have fixed expenses, whether it's rent or we bought a condo and it's condo fees or whatever it is. There are all these expenses, and am I going to outlive my money is the biggest question. It's not how many assets you have, it's what kind of income. So when we do any type of retirement planning, yes, we're going to look at Social Security. What is that income going to produce? If you have a pension, what is that pension going to produce? At least you know there's an income level, and you can measure it against your expense level. I hate the word budget, especially for successful people. They don't want to hear, I don't think you want to hear, oh, I'm going to put you on a budget. No, we're going to put you on a spending plan. Spending plan is much more easy to digest, but knowing that your fixed costs are covered and you have extra money every month is the key. So we have products that can offer you a guaranteed income for as long as you live. Now, even if you haven't made that plan and you have assets, wouldn't it be nice to have an income you can't outlive? You can buy that for yourself if you don't have a pension, or you can buy it additionally to your pension and your Social Security, which can give you a lifelong ability to pay your bills. And we try and protect those assets with insurance products like life insurance and long-term care. Now, I don't know if you're paying attention to what's going on in the government right now, but there's been all these talks this week and have been for the last 2 months about major tax changes that will be happening in some form or another as we're looking to have major expenses. And two of the big things that have come up, that are coming up now, is lowering the estate tax exemption. It's going to happen in 2026 regardless. The current estate exemption, which is now 5 per person, is going to go down to $5 million. What does that mean? That if you have assets over that amount of 11.5, there's no tax to your spouse, but to your heirs, that can become estate taxable. So your legacy can go away. Now, if they lower it to $5 million, they're actually looking to go down to $3.5 million. I don't know if it'll go far that low, but it's definitely going to sunset by 2025, 26. If it doesn't, but they're looking to make those changes now. So you may not be in that world, but you may become in that world. And in addition, they're looking to do away with a lot of the gifting. So right now you can gift large sums of money without any taxation. Next year you may not be able to do so. So these are some of the changes, as well as capital gains and other things. I bring this up because I sat with a very wealthy business client this week, and he's accumulated a lot of assets. He's still actively running his business. And he told me in confidence, I have a lot of life insurance policies that I bought for myself over time. And he's a terrific planner, very smart guy. And my corporation owns a lot of life insurance on me. And I said, so you're the owner of your own life insurance policies? Yeah, I know that he's going to be one of those people that's going to suffer, and all that death benefit that he had, whether it's $5 million, $10 million, whatever it was, half of it's going to go to the government in taxes. But that was not his intent, because he needs to do some legal work called a life insurance trust, irrevocable life insurance trust. If he doesn't protect his assets, it will be taxable. But you can do the things that the very wealthy do by doing the proper planning, but just by not having just the ownership of his policies alone can put them in jeopardy of paying taxes on them. So with all that's going on today, and I talk about this all the time with all the changes going on, you need to do some planning, and you have to do it soon, or you could get caught in a bad situation. One of the other things that I continually talk about, and last week we spoke about what happened on 9/12, not 9/11, 9/12. What happened was the market dropped. As a matter of fact, the market went down so low that it had to close the market on 9/17 in 2011. We are very much due for a correction. If you look at all the long-term statistics and you look at inflation right now, interest rates have never been lower in this country. Inflation is running rampant. The market is going great guns. There's going to be a point, especially with the government having these trillion-dollar budgets, where taxes are going to come into play and the market is due to take a hit. And interest rates are due to go up. They can't sustain this level of interest rates with such massive inflation. So all these different factors, when you talk about investments, there's going to be something to change. And if you're depending on your retirement to be just what your investments are, and you don't have a guaranteed income flow, then you could be suffering with not as much money as you think. And there's very many taxable ways of using your assets to give you that income, that pay that budget. So with some of your assets, we want to protect those assets from taxation. That's the biggest thing that's going to take your money. Between that and or long-term care needs or disability, if you become disabled and you don't have an income, these are all factors in why you need to incorporate some of these fixed asset plans that we put in place for you to make it to retirement and to retire comfortably. So no matter what the market does, you know you have your income to pay your bills. So to recap, we talked about guaranteed income for life. If you don't have a pension, you can set one up. If you're a small business and you don't have a pension set up, you can set one up. Now, there are good pensions and there's different types of pensions. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. But there's a thing still out there called a Roth IRA, and I love Roth IRAs. And a lot of 401ks now have the option of being a Roth 401k as opposed to a regular 401k. The difference is very interesting. You can take the income out of the Roth 401k or a Roth IRA income tax-free. You don't get deductions, but you get the income. You're listening to the Main Street Planning Code, your Main Street Code for Financial Success. I'm your host, Neil Himmelstein. I can be reached at 631-647-4694. Main Street Code for Financial Success. We'll be right back after a commercial. Thank you. Welcome back to the Main Street Code for Financial Success. I'm your host, Neil Himmelstein. You can reach me anytime if you have any questions at 631-647-4694. If you'd like me to cover anything whatsoever, if you have any question about anything I'm talking about, please give me a call. Or if you'd like me to cover something on the show for you, happy to do that. Early in the program, we talked about a guaranteed income from life. And we talked about annuities. Annuities will give you a guaranteed income for life. You know, when you're on a budget or when you have a fixed expense schedule, you need to know that that income is there, not just Social Security, which is the government safety net, but you want to have your own income in addition to. If you have a pension, that's great. If you have that, and then some of your assets should be in an income. Not just assets growing, or you want assets to grow, but at the same time, you want to protect those assets that you have, and you want to caution yourself against a market downturn. We are ready for a correction. So having these products in place, having that guaranteed income, and having the protection of life insurance, long-term care, disability is so very important as an asset class to have. Now, one of the great things about life insurance that many people don't know is the death benefit is tax-free. Now, if you're in a state tax situation, we talked about that, it could be estate taxable, so you have to be very careful. So the titling of your life insurance policy is very important. There's three components to a life insurance policy. There's the ownership, there's the beneficiary, and there's the insured. This is very important. You need to have your policies reviewed on a regular basis. Let me tell you what happens if you don't. Well, I know a friend of mine was married, and he got remarried, and he had an insurance policy, and he passed away, and his first wife got all the benefits of his insurance policy. Basically, his wife, current wife, and children got nothing because he never changed the beneficiary. Very important that you have the beneficiary. Ownership. If it's owned by someone else, or he owns it himself, and he passes, it's part of his estate. It becomes an asset of the estate and could be subject to estate taxes, even though when he took it out, there was no estate taxes. As I said early in the program, the amount of money that's going to come under estate taxes is going to be decreased dramatically, almost in half. So if you're in that situation and you've done the right thing all these years, but you haven't reviewed your policies and you never change your beneficiaries and you don't have the ownership correct, there could be a problem. You need to work with quality people who understand this. You need to use proper estate planning techniques to protect your assets. And you need to go to a person who not only is an investment person, but who understands how insurance works. Life insurance also can have many living benefits, such as if I become disabled and can't pay my premium, do I have a waiver that says, okay, you don't have to pay it as long as you're disabled? I know people who haven't paid for their insurance premium in 35 years. They've used it as a supplemental retirement because they had a whole life policy with a disability waiver. They never have to pay into it again, and they've accumulated their entire retirement in just their insurance policy, and they haven't even worked in 40 years, or they haven't worked at that profession in 40 years. I know 2 different dentists who hurt their hands, and they can't practice dentistry again, yet they had a whole life with a waiver. It's paid for. It's an amazing thing. Some of the policies now have long-term care riders in them. What does that mean? That means that if they need long-term care, that they can draw down the death benefit to pay for their long-term care needs. They still have a significant death benefit in case they pass away, but isn't it nice to know that I can use that policy for both things? Hopefully I'll never need the long-term care, but odds are I will. But isn't it nice to have that flexibility? This is all part of the planning process. So when we talk about the fundamentals of financial planning, we talk about life insurance, we talk about investments, we talk about disability, we talk about protecting your assets as they grow and diversifying your assets. You've always heard diversifying assets. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. I've seen so many people go, whether they're buying, the hottest craze, whether it's Bitcoin or NFTs or this or that, and then all of a sudden it goes down and they need the money and they can't buy a house, they can't do this, or they can't live their lifestyle. You can't put all your eggs in one basket. So you have to diversify your assets. Not only do you want to diversify your assets, you want to diversify your tax classes. What does that mean? Some of my assets could be, if I put money into an IRA, I can deduct money. That money will come directly from my income. So if I put $2,000 in an IRA and I made $52,000, the IRS says, oh, you made $50,000, we're going to tax you on $50,000. If it's a 401k, not an IRA, and it's an employer-sponsored event, instead of you making $52,000, you put in $2,000, you make $50,000. But a lot of 401ks, the employer will match. You don't pay taxes on that match. It goes directly into that 401k. So you may have deducted, you may have made $52,000, you put in $2,000, the employer put in $2,000. To the IRS, you made $50,000. Yet you have $4,000 invested. There can't be a better investment than when you have an employer match. It's a tremendous thing. Now, ask your employer if they have a 401k. Do they have a Roth 401k? Because the nice thing about a Roth 401k is they'll still do the match. You'll pay taxes on your dollars. You won't get that deduction today, but guess what? All that money will come out to you tax-free later on. And if you need it, in case of an emergency for buying a house, and these laws could change, you can access that money. But typically, IRAs and 401ks, you can't access till you're 59.5 without a penalty. And there's a 10% penalty on that. And it's taxable. So you have to be very careful about that. You could buy life insurance and use after-tax money and take out the money 100% tax-free and have a tax-free death benefit. Grows tax deferred. You could take out the money tax-free and you can have a tax-free death benefit, and you can have all these other bells and whistles with it. A disability waiver, a long-term care rider. Tremendous things that you can do with a life insurance product. Tremendous things you can do with annuities with guaranteed income for life. You can use your life insurance as income tax-free money down the road. Isn't it nice to have all these alternatives? But you only have alternatives if you set them up, and you set them up right, and you do the planning. planning is so important. And start early and get your family involved, because everything that you do financially involves your family, your spouse, your children, your grandparents, your parents. Everything you do affects them financially and emotionally. Well, you're listening to the Main Street Code for Financial Success. It's a rainy Friday, but we're looking towards a great weekend. Hope you can reach out to me and give me your questions, 631-647-4694. You're listening to Neil Himmelstein. Check me out on my website, mainstreetplanninggroup.com. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks again.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of this station, JVC Broadcasting Management, or its sponsors.